Welcome at Talks About Architecture. My name is Robert-Jan de Kort. We are here tonight for the second lecture in our mini series of Talks About Architecture. Last week Francesca Torso from Genoa was here, and she delivered a really inspiring lecture. And tonight we welcome Sofie Campanello and Catharina Dahl Palmér from the Göteborg-based office, architecture office, Fabel Arkitektur to Rotterdam. Sofie, Catharina, welcome. Very happy that you are here. We're also very happy to be here at Bahnhof, this intimate and industrial salon in this building, which is in a somewhat a hidden spot in the center of Rotterdam. We're very happy to be here, and also people of Bahnhof, thank you for having us. The choice for the speaker has been made by the Talks About Architecture editorial board, which beside me consists of Sofie van Brunschot of Air, Justin Agin, Max Hart-Nibbrich, and Philippe de Klerk. Sorry, almost said Michel de Klerk, but that's another architect. And we stumbled upon the work of Fabel Arkitektur, and we were struck about the, let's say, the high quality of output of your office, the timber construction, timber buildings, and we thought it was a little bit of a playful vernacular, sort of really using in a playful way local materials, local crafts, and traditional way of building. So, and I think this combination of wooden buildings and playful vernacular is interesting and relevant in the sense that there's a lot of faith put in wood as a construction material, a sustainable construction material. But on the other hand, there's a lot of focus on industrialized ways of producing building components and buildings. And I think you have a very alternative take on this, and we think that was an interesting to invite you to come and talk about your work. So very happy that you accepted. And a couple of weeks ago we had a small conversation, and what stuck with me most about this conversation was that you told us that your interest in working the way that you work is very much personal, sort of a personal fascination, and it's not something that is being taught to you in architecture school. And so you're sort of self-made in that sense, and since you started your office straight out of university, it was very much learning by doing, I guess. And you told us that you were very dependent also in finding skilled construction companies to work with you on your projects, and you were dependent on let's say the knowledge and the craft that was still present in this construction company, and then you started to involve a certain construction company very early on in the stages of your work, which I think is very interesting, because then you get this sort of let's say creative interdependence between design and build. So I will leave it there for my introduction. I'm very curious about what you're going to tell us, so please, we're all here to listen to you talk about your architecture. So take the stage, take the mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Robert-Jan, and Talks About Architecture, and thank you very much, Sofie and Jamie, and everyone else at AIR Rotterdam. We're so very happy to be here, and we always love sharing what we're doing and sharing knowledge, and we're looking forward to talk in Rotterdam and in Netherlands. We have never been into Rotterdam before. We have actually some Dutch clients and friends, so we have some knowledge maybe about the country and the differences in architecture-wise, but we're very curious about your questions and maybe some comments afterwards. So please feel free to ask even the most simple question afterwards.
Yeah. And we are here to talk about our studio and our work. And our, as you said before, our interest in timber and interest in wood, and what we are working with a lot, our focus on Fabel Arkitektur is like working with natural materials and see what the natural potential is in every material, what its value are, and we'll work a lot with like the craftsmanships and how to use material to its full extent in a way. Yeah.
And I think it was very interesting that you said, Rojan, in your introduction that we give wood a lot of energy now and a lot of consideration as a material for using a lot in the future. But it is maybe we enjoy the exploration of looking a bit backwards to see, because in Sweden wood has been the most common building material for quite some time and a really long time ago. So that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so this is our studio. We are 4 architects working together. It was me and Catharina who founded the studio, and we're now 4 architects, and we are educated in Sweden and in Denmark. And all of us are like handpicked because we like have a strong personal relation to like the Swedish nature and the forest. Both me and Catharina are like we are having like a background on the Swedish countryside, living like close to the forest and close to nature. So as you said, it's a really personal interest for us.
Yeah, and this is a picture from a part of our studio in Gothenburg. We like to work, as Robert Jan said as well, we're working hands-on, close contact with our clients, and we really enjoy and like to work in a smaller scale, but at the same time we think it's very important to see how that could be relevant even in a larger scale, in a larger context. And to be able to do that, we need to have a large network of craftsmen and different people that could actually produce and could help and could build these projects. And they could work with timber, they could work with clay, wooden windows, wooden doors, or landscape design.
Mm. And parallel to our work at Fabel, we are also often invited to like being a part of education at the Chalmers, the architectural school. So we're really enjoying to be a part of the discussion of how to build and how we could build and why. And this is actually not at the university, but also at our studio. It's students from Copenhagen that came to visit us. And this is Sweden. The blue dot is Gothenburg, and that's where we have our office. But since we are working with like our approach to material and to wood, and with like the connection to the nature, has led us to work like a lot on the countryside. So we have built a lot of buildings that are not in Gothenburg, and they like relate to many different kind of landscapes and climates, because Sweden is kind of a big landscape or big country. Yeah.
We came from quite a big country. So no, but it can be quite relevant if we move on to the next picture, because we just want to, because the fact that we're working with the natural material, it's kind of important how the landscape and the source material wood differs in a different part of Sweden. So in the darkest green we have like the southern part. It's more a landscape connected to Denmark. It used to be a part of Denmark. It's more like sand, flat, not so much wood. Then we have like the middle part. We're starting to have pine and fir trees, and going upwards it's just more and more and more. And then we have like the mountains, the white part.
Yeah, and what's interesting with this is also that at the south of the Sweden, the wood that grows there, like the trees that grows there, they are hard. So, and they're also not that much forest. So you can see in the buildings and like in the historical context and the historical buildings that the wood isn't as dense in the construction as it is in the northern Sweden, where you have pine and fir that's a bit softer to work with, and also that you have a lot of materials, so it could be a great part of the construction. We will come back to that later.
Okay, so we're going to show you 4 different projects, and as have been clear, our main focus is timber structures and how we learn from historical ways of working with them and applying it to contemporary architecture. And we're going to show you 4 projects with different angles, and the first one is in a historical context. So this is Fryksås. It's in the middle part of Sweden, so we have a lot of trees, but we have also a mountain the mountains is like starting here. So we have an old farming environment, which this is Fryksås is a small village, you could say, but it traditionally these kind of villages, they were only used in the summertime, where the people living and having cattle down in the larger villages, they moved up to these small villages during the summertime. And this is a really well kept area. And as you could see, all the buildings, this of course is a historical picture, but all the buildings are made from wood, and you can see how they adapt to the landscape. They are like stepping down when the landscape is stepping down, and if we zoom in, we can see that they are completely made of wood, and they are probably made from like the wood that you can see like over there. And the construction is completely made from wood. There are no joints, there are no like nails or anything else. It's just wood that is connected with wood, and it's lock itself together. There are not many windows or doors because of the fact that there is a problem with making openings in these kind of buildings, because as you can imagine, making an opening in this gable here, that would cause like a problem, because the logs will like do like this.
They will not have a joint anymore, so then you like need to fix that. So the openings are not very common historically.
And if we move on, so this is a picture, because we're working in a project right now that is being built. I'm going up there actually on Monday for a meeting. So it's being built right now, and this picture is must be like 1 year ago, if we look at the snow, etc. So many of these structures are abandoned today. And it's left with many traces of the life that were lived there. And some material is beyond rescue, like maybe the curtain or the small bag hanging in the window. And maybe the wallpaper as well. But In Fryksås, this is the site that we're working on, and this is one of the buildings that were there when we started working, and this is reused, so it's taken down piece by piece. You can see it's just put there on the ground. So the wooden logs, they are often really okay because the wooden logs are grown super slow. They are allowed to be super old, so they are really in a good condition when they are taken down. So they can like last for several hundred years. So when you do something like that, you have to mark just every log and replace the bad ones with new ones. And you do that in like the exact same manner as, so this meeting is like the same meeting as that meeting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's this is often done not on site, but maybe at the workshop of the craftsman doing it. So here you can see the new logs and how you mark them to work with them. So it's actually quite easy to move an entire house. And then the house is ready to be assembled on the new site, and that of course requires a lot of on-site engagement, as I will do on Monday then.
Yeah.
For example.
As you can imagine, it's like you can't plan everything on every millimeter. You have to like be able to make changes during the building process.
And because the timbermen working with this, they can't really answer before they have done anything. So it's very common that we are on site taking decisions, making decisions,
trying things.
Trying things, yeah. Depending on how the status is on the logs, etc. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this building, for example, is going to almost look like this when it's finished. You can see the top square there is the old barn that were taken down. Then we have a new building connecting these two, and then the large one is the one with the sad curtain. Yeah. And this is a picture some weeks ago when the snow had come, and you can see like the windows are coming in, and here is the window. The windows, they differ quite a lot, and we had to find like a rhythm with the windows because it felt good to relate to the openings that were already in the timber facade, because we can't really see it as a blank paper and then do just windows where we want, but we have to look where is the logs already cut and how wide is it and how could we find a pattern that could fit there. Otherwise, the timberman is super annoyed. And it feels also a bit strange.
Yeah, so that was actually a project that we worked a lot about. Like reuse is like the start of the project, and this is another project where reuse were like the starting points. It's a transformation of an old stable actually. And an old stable that's going to be a part of a residential house or a home actually, and the stable was going to be the living room. And it's situated in a rural environment as well, a bit also dense rural landscape, and what you can see in a lot on the Swedish countryside is that most of the houses are red. So this is a really typical barn stable that you can see on the countryside in Sweden. And here is like one part of this. One part of the house here is in really good condition. It's the timber structure condition, and this wasn't in such a good condition. But the couple that bought this, actually it was a couple that bought this with one of the, with the sister to one of the partners, yes. And they didn't really know they were planning, or maybe we should build something new here, or maybe we should move into one of the different houses that you could see here on the spot. But then they came into the stable and they found, they saw this room, which is a really like spacious room, and they fell in love with the roof, and they felt like we want to live like close to this material. We want to be here in this room, and they felt like maybe we shouldn't like move into one of the old houses, but we should do something new with this one instead. It was in good condition, and but not in such a good condition that you could like live in it, of course. So there's one old part, and then we made an extension to it. And we had to make a few adjustments to the roof, because when adding insulation, normally you do it like you could do it on the inside or you could do it on the outside. And we were talking a lot about how to do here, because maybe it would be a good idea, like since it's in this cultural heritage area, and the exterior is really important. But that room was, and that roof was so important for the experience of the room and the space. So we added the insulation on top of the existing roof, which gave this like new hat in a way to the house here. So this is the existing building, and then we have this add-on here. You can see the old part and the new part here. The black, everything that's black, it's what's new, and the white is the existing building that was there before. So it's actually this one, which is full length up to the ceiling, and then we made a two-story building next to it, or connected it to 2 stories, so first floor and second floor. And what was really important for us was to the great experience in the room is that that you have the connection to the roof, the facade wall, and that you are like in this big room. So it was really important for us to all have this room in presence everywhere, actually. So we made this like small add-on in the middle, but otherwise you could walk like the movement is throughout the facades. And in the project that we showed you before, we took down each piece to move it and to restore it. But here instead it was in kind of good condition. So instead of taking it down piece by piece, we instead lifted it to the side. And actually, this is quite easy. Of course, it's not quite easy, but it's like took a few hours, a lot of preparations before, but it's not that big of a deal actually. But it takes a lot of preparations. And here you can see that it's put to the side. It's parked to the side to make room for the new concrete slab, because before there was only like the earth floor beneath it, so we needed to do something with the foundation of the building. And so here we actually, when moving it back, we took the opportunity to rotate the building 180 degrees. Um, and then did some other things as well, yeah. But then this is where we put it back together, and actually here you can see the joints where wood is connected to wood, and actually when it's connected to these lower parts, you don't need to enforce it in more ways. Gravity that is holding everything together.
And here you can see an example of that it's the windows are still in, and it's perfectly fine to move it, and you can see how they needed to like secure the openings and add the beams to just be able to lift it. Yeah, and you see the new concrete slab as well. Ja.
Kan du trycka på datorn? Yeah, and here you can see also that it was marked because some of the logs were fixed during the renovation part. And here you can see in the background the existing building, and here is the add-on that is with the timber log like a new wooden frame structure. Could blip through if it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and here you can see the two different parts: the old log house and the new timber, the new wooden frame house. It will always appear as like one unit with a red paint, but it will always be very visible that it consists of two different techniques.
And also like a very visible joint with old and new. We worked a lot with like how to frame the windows, and it looks really easy here, but to make it this narrow and thin, you have to work with a lot inside the wall to make that possible.
Because like especially the old logs, they are not very precise. They are like worn from weather and the time, and you need to have like quite a large distance for putting in insulation and everything. So it's, as Sofie said, it's like it's a meeting between something that is done very rough with like a chainsaw or an axe, meeting something that is made like in a factory, very narrow. So it looks simple, but it's very hard. And this is a picture from inside the stable with one of the clients going around working in the house and with their roof and the insulated roof on top of it then. And here's when it's finished.
And furnished. Kitchen in the middle.
And you can see there's like an old ventilation window up on the gable, and there is still an opening. This is from the bedroom upstairs, so you could like
peek down.
Du får byta bild.
It's actually from the bathroom.
Yeah.
Here. And here you can see it with the existing surrounding buildings and snow, since it's the middle of Sweden. And also with this cap that we told you before. Get a new higher expression. Yeah. And why we wanted to show you these two projects, it's because we like to study historical techniques, historical buildings, historical wooden techniques, and learn from them. Our aim is to learn from the history, but also to move forward. So we want to like incorporate this in contemporary architecture as well. So these are two. It was two projects that we like reused an existing structure, but we were really eager to. What we were aiming for is to see how we can work with these old timber techniques when making contemporary architecture and making it like really taking it into like a more contemporary expression.
Okay, so Höghult, which is the name of this small village, where the clients had this old farm with a lot of land, 3 small buildings, and they needed some extra space. So it's an addition to an existing farm. They wanted really like small functions, a sauna, more bedrooms, and they were wanting to be able to enjoy the view, which you don't have from these buildings, but you have from that site. And the road, there's a small road passing by this side of the house, and so we divided the functions into 2 buildings, and these functions here, like the guest room and the sauna, and especially maybe the bathroom and the changing room, etc., is rooms where you don't want any windows. And I can think of maybe one structure in wood that is not good for windows. No, I'm kidding. So then we thought, okay, maybe a log timber building could be really useful, both for the sauna and for the other rooms that were not being able or could use any windows anyhow. And also, this facade is completely closed towards the road. And then, of course, you want to enjoy. You want to have like social events, or you want to enjoy the view, and therefore you need windows. So one house is timber logs, and the other one is made from something called timber frame. It's vertical, mostly wooden logs connected with wooden joints. And it's often been like traditionally used in barns or in churches, mostly in the roofs.
Yeah.
So it's mostly like a roof construction.
Yeah, and also like in the southern Sweden that we showed you before, it's a lot. You more often use this technique because you don't have as much wood, so you can get the volume with less material. So it's a smarter way of using the wood, and then you can like fill like the holes with other things like clay or stuff like that instead.
Other things you find at home. Yeah, so we took the opportunity, not filling it with clay, but filling it with glass to enjoy the view. And here you can see it's this is the view from the main buildings. And as you can see, it's surrounded. This is not very uncommon. It's quite a common view in Sweden. You see a lot of forest. And you can actually see maybe some of the forest in this project as well, where these timber logs come from. So it's really a local material in Sweden. Yeah, here is the view towards the lake, and we have a 300-meter border from the lake to the point where you can build in Sweden, and that is approximately like right where the building starts.
Oh, sorry.
And here you can see some details in the landscape, like the stone wall remains from when it used to be a farm, and the road is just going on the other side of the stone wall. So the house is really close to the road. Of course, it's not a large road. But still, you don't want to be, it's very suitable because you don't want any windows on this side. And we're very happy that the detailing of these houses became the wooden joints and the wooden details. And this is the main entrance. You have the wood for the sauna and the view through the building. And here is where you enter the building. You can choose 3 different directions. You could go to like the bedroom, the sauna space, or you can continue going out of the building and into the social glass room by the view. And they are very, very narrow. There are 3 small bridges and 3 glass doors connecting the timber house, the log timber house, to the outdoor spaces and the glass space. And this is the view from the lake. The glass space. And here is a detail of a wooden joint in this old roof construction, and you can also see like where the timber is joined as well. And this is the space inside. You have these diagonal beams for creating stability.
And you have the view in one direction, and in the other direction you have the wood, the timber, as you can see here.
Okay, now we're going to just quickly go through like the building process, because our assignment, or the client, they asked for a jewel but not a golden jewel, and we asked ourselves what has great value today, and we think that being able to do something with your hands, having that knowledge to be sure that, okay, if I do something like this, that will be able to stand here for like 400 years. And there's a super exciting power in that, we think. So we wanted to, we already knew like maybe a network of 100 timbermen and women working in this, in the southern part of Sweden. So we got in contact with a group close by that we knew could be up for doing something like this. But though those timbermen must also be able to, this is Mats, the head timberman, going there and standing there, and they must also be able to like feel confident in working with some modern techniques as well, such as the client wanted a concrete slab, etc. Okay, so here's the building going up, and here is the group of people working with this project. We have the clients, we have Sofie, we have painter and clay master Mia, and timberman Mats, and his clients, and myself. And they can like, it's super cool that they know how to do this, and they feel confident in collecting moss to be as insulation between the logs. That has been used in all the projects that we know. And Mats and Sofie is jumping around there. And this is Mats' son-in-law using like hand tools. And here is some details. All this are, as we talked about earlier, all these like joints, they are tested on site mostly, because we went to Mats really early having a discussion. We brought a lot of drawings, and we were like making drawings together, but that is still just an assumption, because it's actually really mostly done on site.
Yeah, so this frame here, for example, is just a mock-up for us to like test the dimensions, both structurally but also like visually.
And they test it by, they look at the wood and they feel it and they like push it, and it's really made by hand, which is super cool. Yeah, and we have like discussions on how to make these details around the window. And this project was made before the one that Sofie talked about earlier, so we could use the knowledge that we had in this project to bring into the red building. So this is kind of similar, as you could see, in some ways.
Yeah, and this is from the bathroom or the changing rooms, where we've also used natural materials. So this is tadelact, with this an old technique that you use in like northern Africa.
Is it used here?
Do you know tadelact?
Yeah. Great.
So it was a like
Yeah, they are happy.
Happy workers.
They are happy because they are super stressed, because they needed to be 2 people in this really small room, because you have to work really fast, because you can't like quit and have a coffee and then come back.
Then there will be like a really visible joint, so you need to like work with where it's wet. You need to continue. So they're really working close together that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the result is like a surface that could retain water in a really good way, and you could have it like on the walls and up around the shelf and a bench and then down on the floor, so you don't have any things or marks dividing it. Yeah. Okay, the last.
So we're just gonna show you a few pictures of what we're working with right now. It's a design for a residential house. It's 2 musicians. They live in the southern parts of Sweden, but in the west coast, quite close to our office. They have a site close to the sea, but it's actually in the forest. It's like 10 minutes to the sea or something like that.
But now you're experts in forest, so now you see that this is like not this dense, thick forest. It's like a really west coast forest with like really, really thin trees and huge rocks,
and you can see the sky through it.
Yeah, that does not happen in Dalarna or Småland or something like that. No, it's darker.
Yeah, so here we're working with experimenting with how can we work with like this traditional method, but maybe we don't need to use it like in every single like everywhere in the building. So here we're working with one part that we are cladding with clay. We are working with one wood part, and this one is actually timber framing in the construction, and there are joined together with small links, and there is a garden in the middle, a small garden in the middle. Here's the floor plan, where you could see that there is a social part, a private part, and this is what we call the active part, where they are going to live and work with their music, and also there's a stair down to the cellar as well. So here we are working with like a combination of clay and timber, and also working with this roof and not a really traditional Swedish way of working with it. You can see here with clay.
And this is how we imagine the living room and the kitchen to be like, to have a presence of wood and clay and tiles or bricks, but still a bit more colorful and another shape that is maybe traditional.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it.
Thank you so much for listening, and please ask questions or comments. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're used to that. Or I can just speak really loud. Yep.
Sofie, Catharina, thank you very much for your lecture. I hope that there are some questions from the audience. I will. I see some more questions. We will start with you then. I will kick off, if I may, with one question. Closer. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I have a lot of questions actually, but I want to start with the collaboration that you have with a construction company, which you also showed us, and very nice to sort of point out every person that's involved. And I was wondering, what's the feedback that you get from working with this company? Because I can imagine you have a sort of a design goal, or you as architects, and they are also sort of bringing in their knowledge. and they also, it has a lot of restraints, and you have to figure stuff out on the site, or almost everything. Do you get any feedback what they from them, what for them is the value to work to collaborate with you on these projects?
Yeah, we got a lot of feedback, like in different ways. Both, like yeah, but both like they have like so much knowledge in their hands. They know how to build this, not by teaching us in words. They know it like by hand, so they need to like show us. So we come up with like an assumption. This is how we want to build this house. We think that this would be a good joint. What do you think about it? And there is the feedback that we get is both like, yeah, it could be like every single, they have like, of course, their own like their own way of making things. So maybe they're not comfortable with making it in another way that we thought from the beginning, push for once or aim for. And so they it could be something like that. Oh, but we often we're making it like this instead, or stuff like that. And in the beginning, maybe in the first project that we did, we were a bit like, but we want to do this. But we learned so much from them and how to like. It's for us. It's not. We are not so. It's not so important for us that the building is going to be as the drawing from the beginning. What we want to do is to learn how we can work with these techniques. So we are like using the buildings in a way to learn from their craftsmanship. So the response is like both like, can we do like this instead, but also like we want them to respond to our drawings.
And they are often very, very, they enjoy being a part of the project already when it's in the sketch phase or when it's drawn. So they are really happy to be able to give some input and to be a part of it. And I think they are not really used to being invited very often into that design. And we think that it has enabled us to be also a part of it for a very long time, even when the building, as I'm going on Monday, is almost finished, but it's still important that we're there. So it feels like, but it's very much about building a trust for each other. And of course, the first meeting could be really like, yeah, okay, I have my standing point, but we have to, I think now we have proven that we're interested, and of course, and one thing that is important to point out as well is that they are like maybe 95% of the work they are doing is like meeting like an abandoned house with, you know, the left curtain and the bag. So they are really used to like saving houses and renovating houses. So they are also quite excited to be a part of making a completely new building.
And one more question: the role of the drawing in this process. Because I can imagine that it's also different from let's say the regular way of designing, where you first draw everything, think out of the details, and then maybe start talking with a construction company. You said, yeah, you invite them really early on. How do you draw your projects?
We draw very much in AutoCAD. But last week I had to draw on top of pictures taken from this house in Dalarna now, and I got some pictures and I draw on top of the photographs to show, okay, we think that this has to be like this, etc., etc. So it differs.
And how far do you go in detail, or are there things that are thought out in detail on site?
Yeah, but we, as I told you before, we have an aim or a goal or a how do you say? Hypotes in Swedish? Like a way that we think that we want to do something, and then we draw it, like we make a detail out of it and use like this, an idea like we did it like this last time, and we want to make it a little bit more like that. So we make like drawings and detail drawings of it. Yes. but they then we use them like at the starting point, and then we of course draw throughout the process as well, but not always.
Okay, thank you. I will go here.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, of course. I'm wondering, like, you are in Rodan right now. There's so many interesting things happening, and what make you makes you made up your mind to focus on the timber building or this beautiful villas and nice techniques? Just wondering
How we,
Yeah.
why we are
Yeah.
got this interest. Yeah. It's a long story. I don't know where to start or when to start. I come from like a family. My father is working with old. No, he's a carpenter, like making furniture, and an artist. We live in. I grew up like on the countryside and on a small farm close to the forest, and it's like wood and forest has always been part of my background. Yeah. Just so you know, so that's like we always. And Catharina is also. She actually her family comes from like half an hour from where my parents live. So we're yeah. But when we started our business, we started, as you said, right after university. We started working with what we could. Who wanted to give something for us to do, like yeah, but and of course it was a lot of like renovating old houses and then like making an extension to an old house or stuff like that, because it was like the smaller scale projects that we started with. And then we realized that like we are really interested in like how you when we're making these extensions, we wanted to learn from the buildings that were there before. So then we got into this network of carpenters actually that were really used to working in this way. So we were interested in like what's already built in a way, and that's
we were kind of intrigued that I think the common understanding maybe 12 years ago when we started in Gothenburg or in Sweden were that I think many did not know that you could build a timber house or a timber frame house, but we realized quite soon that okay, we know like 100 people just in the western part of Sweden that could make this, and they exist all over Sweden. So, and it's quite common in the small scale to use this technique. So we just got intrigued into learning more.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one more. Because, well, I studied in Gothenburg actually in Chalmers, and now I'm doing my internship here in Rotterdam because I travel here and I see a lot of interesting happening. But also I really love this very Swedish kind of really nice techniques. And I feel like I'm so influenced by so different cultures and styles. And also I really wondering how can you just keep up your mind to have your own style, or just what do you think of the other part of the world, have influence on you, or you want to influence the rest of part of the world, these kind of things.
Why so local?
Why so local? I think it has to do with like our roots and
and actually we are interested in these techniques, but we are also like looking into Switzerland. They have similar techniques, and also in Japan we are working with timber, a huge or a bigger timber network throughout like the world, and we're actually involved in like a international conference where carpenters from all over the world come to like build together, called Kesurukai. That means build together in Japanese. What's interesting with that is like if you are studying like Japanese architecture, they also have a lot of like wooden techniques. And what you see is like you can see a lot of similarities just because of that the material, it works in a certain way. And to be able to use that material, it has like two different places on Earth, but it's like simultaneously like developed in a quite similar way, and it's interesting to see and to learn from like the different techniques, and that are actually quite similar. Yeah, so we are looking into that as well, but we are nerding about traditional Swedish techniques. Yeah.
Any more questions in the back? Okay.
Hello, thank you for your lecture. I was interested to take the discussion a little bit wider, maybe first to the site and then to the culture itself of Swedish culture, and pick whatever you feel comfortable with. So I was wondering, since it was so easy to lift the buildings and change the position of the buildings, do you take into account sort of wider considerations of the site itself, for example, the orientation of the building? And also, do you work or live on site? Like how? Because these places are very far apart. It's a large country. So how often are you on site? That's one part of the question. And I was just curious, are you in what way, or do you connect to Swedish architectural history or contemporary Swedish architectural culture? For example, maybe I'm reading into it, but this curved roof hints to me sort of influenced by maybe Rolf Erskine, one of the Team 10 members, but maybe I'm just reading into things. So, I don't know.
So maybe start with the question about the site.
Yeah. For example, this building in Fryksås, the old pictures. I think we've been there. Maybe this is the 4th visit there. So we try to, and it's like an 9-hour journey. So you have to like travel there and stay there for a couple of days. So we try to combine it with other things. A lot of meetings there, but also maybe study visits or meetings with other clients. Or so you have to make like a larger journey out of it. But it's very, of course, I don't think that we have almost not made any project without being on site. So we just it's very important, and we try to solve it in the way that it's doable.
And also about like what you said about like the site and how to like take the site into consideration when moving a house. It's actually something that we talk quite a lot about, because it's not there is a conflict between like these buildings are like a part of the like historical context, like and really important for these specific places where they are. Yeah, the abandoned ones, or if we're like taking one structure and just saying it's not that easy to say that there is a lot of houses that we could just move to another place and use it, because then we take like what is actually the culture in one place and putting it somewhere else. It could be like it could be a conflict. So we are always like thinking, is this something that that like has a future on the first place, or like is it like a good thing to move it, or should we like keep it? So, and then of course when working with the stable, for example, then the house had a few like a few existing openings that we thought would work better in the when moving it 180 degrees. It was like openings towards like the courtyard, but now it was maybe better to open up towards the view, which is on the complete different directions when using the building in another way. So that's why we made the shift. Yeah, so of course, like the location is really important, and to like fix the building to what's surrounding it. Yeah.
And then the second part of the question was about references that you may use, partly references from history and partly maybe other references.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of Erskine in Sweden and in Gothenburg. And I think we love a lot of his smaller early work. We also like the big scaling. I don't think that Erskine maybe was the reference here, but of course it's yeah. Sverifén was, yeah.
Sorry, I don't have to scream. I can use this. A lot of Norwegian architects and architecture is quite similar because they also work with a lot of wood, especially when you come up in the northern part. So, yeah.
The floor plan in that building that we're working with right now is actually more like something that you resemble from like maybe the 60s or the 70s, like with this one-story building with the courtyard in the center and like lower building. Like so, that's maybe also why we got influenced by architects from that era. Mm.
Sofie, Catharina, thank you so much for your presentation. I have to ask, I hope I'm not the only one wondering, the sketchy blob shadow on this slide, what is it? Yes.
Yeah, there are some sketches from a competition we entered maybe like 10, 11, 12 years ago. It's for a water tower in Sweden, so it was like how to add different layers to like an industrial building. So this like net is a wooden net with nests for a certain bird. And then you had to like, I hope you wanted a long answer because this is the long one. And then you also needed some kind of border with this to this water tower, so you could not enter. So this one is like a water pond or like a small lake to be the border and not a fence maybe.
We didn't win. Yeah, and maybe you are wondering about the oyster shells as well. It's actually, we're working with a client that works, she is diving for oysters, and she is developing a quite big like business, selling on oysters and also making like excursions or like taking tourists out to fetch the oysters with her. And we made a home for her and also for her guests. And then we used the oyster as the building material in the plaster. So because she has a lot of oyster shells. Yeah. So it's actually a waste material that we used in the facade.
There was another question in the back. Yeah. You wanted questions?
Yeah.
Thank you for your lecture. I was wondering, because you're working extensively with local craftsmen, am I getting this idea now that Sweden is just full of local craftsmen that are waiting to work with, or is it like, were you in a very special space where you have that?
Both yes and no. I think there are a lot of craftsmen, and I think the heritage and how to take care of older buildings, and we cannot tear buildings down. I think that's kind of a growing. It's growing, that interest in Sweden, and the craftsmen that we're working with, they have like a waiting list for maybe 1 or 2 years because they have a lot of things to do. And in the western part of Sweden, because we are engaged in a network a local craftsman network there, and that is the largest one in Sweden actually, this local one, and it's a bit like it's about like 125 150 members at the moment, and businesses exactly, and maybe that is it's partly because the university has education in the western part of Sweden that educates timbermen, traditional painters, and building with bricks, and etc. etc. So there are every year coming new members to this, like.
To our area, actually. Yeah, close to Gothenburg, but it's like 2 hours away or 3 hours away. Yeah.
And is it, so it is growing, this network, or is it sustained?
Yeah, it's growing, but it's also a lot of course, elder people that stops working with it. So yeah, I don't had the statistics, but our feel is that it's growing. Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah, growing with younger people, yeah.
We see that all the newly trained students from that school, they don't have any problems like starting their own firm or getting employed. They have a lot of things to do right after school. So, yeah.
Can you say something about the lifespan of these buildings, these existing buildings that you are transforming, and also the buildings that you are constructing newly? How long can they survive?
Yeah, it has to do with how you take care of them, how well you take care of them. Often you see that the lower rows, you need to maybe we can show like a picture of the first or the second row from the ground. I was thinking of maybe huset i Dalarna. Maybe you can see it there. Okay. Yeah, they are really exposed to water, so that's often where there are like problems, and then you could actually lift it and do it. But if you have what you need to do is to take care of the ground that's surrounding the building, because that's what's not can't be wet, of course. Yeah, but tree is naturally good of transporting water. So it's as long as it can dry, it can also be wet.
So the buildings have to be maintained. They can be repaired, and in that sense, it's a sustainable way of building.
Yes, and exactly. And I think the timber structures that we have reused, they could be several hundred years old. We don't actually know. You could take samples and investigate how old they actually are, but I would say that they are at least 100 years old. All of the structures that we have reused, probably a lot older.
And at the same time, sort of minimizing the amount of other materials that go into a building.
Yeah.
Do you calculate this, or is it a goal to have as least screws as possible?
No, we don't calculate. We only work with our senses.
It's, I mean, in this building, in both these structures, it's important to point out that there are no nails or metal, except for the roof. So in the walls, there are no nails or anything attaching the wood to each other.
Two. Last two.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I enjoyed it to hear a lecture where the word client doesn't appear once and the word money is completely absent. It's very nice to listen to that, but I just wonder, can you tell us a little bit, how do clients actually find you, and then you work with them on a sort of open journey where every detail is decided on site? It costs time, it costs money, it is, has to meet expectations, and how do you deal with that? And you draw something and they expect something and they don't get what they expect, and how do you deal with that?
Oh, sure. First of all, maybe we need to like say that what we are elaborating throughout the journey is mostly in like the detailing, in the joints, in how to like work with what's around windows and stuff like that. So like the overall picture is often set. It could differ a lot, of course, when working with an existing structure, because we need to take into consideration like what condition it is in. But how they find us, first of all, it differs. But of course, often they've seen something that we made, and maybe they had like. Often they have like an old house already and like have an interest in working with old houses, or they saw something that we did before and are more interested in like this kind of buildings. This, for example, we already made a house for their children. But talking about like financials and stuff like that, it's really important for us to like be really open about our way of working with these structures, and to be totally transparent with like we know this, but we don't know this, and this might look like simple in a way, but it took a lot of hours doing it. So we need to like be really transparent with that in the beginning. And of course, this is of course a really expensive sauna. Yeah.
And I think in almost every project that we've shown, the clients are also on site. So I think they are invited into the process as well. They were in the pictures together with the craftsmen, and they get to know us, but they also get to know the craftsmen and women that are on site. And they, in very many projects, they are also engaged in working themselves, and they ask, is it possible for me to be a part of the building? So I think many of the clients, they have a relation to the building or to the site, or wanting to be a part of the building. Yeah.
Okay, I will go to the last question of the evening.
I was wondering, in this picture, the foundation, it's like separate, but usually it's done with bricks, right? In the old days, or I mean with stones.
Yeah.
On top of it. And why did you choose concrete here?
I have to go back in time to think. I think it was a combination of different things. When you use the stones, you have to have the building elevated quite high, because you have to have the air underneath, etc. And it's if it's not heated all year around, that needs a lot of. If you don't have it heated all year round, you have to, and if you make that kind of foundation, you have to have certain like a technical machines, etc., to make it work today. So I think we wanted it partly to be lower and partly for the functions inside the building, that the concrete fitted best for those functions according to the client and to us, and it worked.
Yeah, but then we also worked a lot with like the foundation here because we wanted, since we decided that we wanted to do one building that was really dense and closed and one open building, we also thought a lot about like how the building should meet ground. So the heavy, dense log house, it has like a heavier foundation in a way, and then the lighter open timber frame structure, we wanted to make it like standing like more easily tiptoeing onto the ground instead. So yeah, that's also why we like wanted to find something that we could combine.
Okay, thank you. We can continue this conversation in a more informal manner, one story below. So everybody can approach Sofie and Catharina for even more detailed questions about construction and their practice. Sofie, Catharina, thank you very much for your lecture, for being here and sharing your architecture practice with us. Audience, everybody, thanks for attending tonight. The editorial board and AIR also, thank you for the nice cooperation, and Bahnhof for having us. Follow us on Instagram, and we'll keep you posted on future lectures. More will follow, I hope. And time for a drink, I think.
Yeah. And again, thank you, and
Give
thank you
them a
for
big
inviting
hand.
us.